Chapter 6, Understanding Media. What is your favorite TV program? What do you like listening to on the radio? Which newspaper or magazine do you usually read? Do you surf the internet, and what have you found most useful about it? Did you know that there is one word that is often used to collectively refer to the radio, TV, newspapers, internet, and several other forms of communication? This word is media. In this chapter, you will read more about the media. You will find out what is required to make it work, as well as the ways in which the media affects our daily lives. Can you think of one thing that you have learned from the media this week? Everything ranging from the stall at the local fair to the program that you see on TV can be called media. Media is the plural form of the word medium, and it describes the various ways through which we communicate in society. Because media refers to all means of communication, everything ranging from a phone call to the evening news on TV can be called media. TV, radio, and newspapers are a form of media that reaches millions of people or the masses across the country and the world, and thus they are called mass media. Media and technology. It would probably be difficult for you to imagine your life without the media, but cable television and the widespread use of the internet is a recent phenomenon. These have been around for less than 20 years. The technology that mass media uses keeps changing. Newspapers, television, and radio can reach millions of people because they use certain technologies. We also tend to discuss newspapers and magazines as the print media, and TV and radio as the electronic media. Why do you think newspapers are called print media? As you read further, you will find that this naming is related to the different technologies that these media use. The following photographs will give you a sense of the ways in which technology that mass media uses has changed over the years and continues to change. Changing technology or machines and making technology more modern helps media to reach more people. It also improves the quality of sound and the images that you see. But technology does more than this. It also changes the ways in which we think about our lives. For example, today it is quite difficult for us to think of our lives without television. Television has enabled us to think of ourselves as members of a larger global world. Television images travel huge distances through satellites and cables. This allows us to view news and entertainment channels from other parts of the world. Most of the cartoons that you see on television are mostly from Japan or the United States. We can now be sitting in Chennai or Jammu and can see images of a storm that has hit the coast of Florida in the United States. Television has brought the world closer to us. Media and money. The different technologies that mass media use are expensive. Just think about the TV studio in which the news reader sits. It has lights, cameras, sounds recorders, transmissions, satellites, etc., all of which cost a lot of money. In a news studio, it is not only the newsreader who needs to be paid but also a number of other people who help put the broadcast together. This includes those who look after the cameras and lights. Also, as you read earlier, this technology that mass media use keep changing, and so a lot of money is spent on getting the latest technology. Due to these costs, the mass media needs a great deal of money to do its work. As a result, most television channels and newspapers are part of big business houses. Mass media is constantly thinking of ways to make money. One way in which the mass media earns money is by advertising different things like cars, chocolates, clothes, mobile phones, etc. You must have noticed the number of advertisements that you have to see while watching your favorite television show. While watching a cricket match on TV, the same advertisements are shown repeatedly between each over, and so you are often watching the same image over and over again. As you will read in the following chapter, advertisements are repeated in the hope that you will go out and buy what is advertised. Media and democracy. In a democracy, the media plays a very important role in providing news and discussing events taking place in the country and the world. It is on the basis of this information that citizens can, for example, learn how government works, and often, if they wish to, they can take action on the basis of these news stories. Some of the ways in which they can do this is by writing letters to the concerned minister, organizing a public protest, starting a signature campaign, asking the government to rethink its program, etc. Given the role that the media plays in providing information, it is important that the information be balanced. Let us understand what we mean by the balanced media report while reading two versions of the same news events given on the next page. The fact is that if you had read either newspaper, you would only know one side of the story. If you had read the News of India, you would mostly likely think of the protesters as a nation's. They're disrupting traffic and continually polluting the city with their factories leaves you with a bad impression about them. But on the other hand, if you had read the story in the India Daily, you would know that the protests are because a lot of livelihood will be lost if the factories close because the relocation efforts have not been adequate. Neither of these stories is a balanced report. A balanced report is one that discusses all points of view of a particular story and then leaves it to the readers to make up their minds. Writing a balanced report, however, depends on the media being independent. An independent media means that no one should control and influence its coverage of news. No one should tell the media what can be included and what should not be included in a news story. An independent media is important in a democracy. As you read above, it is on the basis of the information that the media provides that we take action as citizens. So it is important that this information is reliable and not biased. However, the reality is that media is far from independent. This is mainly because of two reasons. The first is to control that the government has on the media. When the government prevents either a news item or scenes from a movie or the lyrics of a song from being shared with the larger public, this is referred to as censorship. There have been periods in Indian history when the government censored the media. The worst of these was the emergency between 1975 to 1977. While the government does continue to censor films, it does not really censor the media's coverage of news. Despite the absence of censorship by the government, most newspapers nowadays still fail to provide a balanced story. The reason for this are complicated. Persons who research the media have said that this happens because businesses houses control the media. At times, it is in the interest of these businesses to focus on only one side of the story. Media's continual need for money and it links to advertising means that it becomes difficult for media to be reporting against people who give them advertisement. Media is thus no longer considered independent because of its close link to business. Beside the above, the media also tends to focus on a particular aspect of a story because they believe this makes a story interesting. Also, if they want to increase public support for an issue, they often do this by focusing on one side of a story. Setting agendas. The media also plays an important role in deciding what stories to focus on and therefore decides on what is newsworthy. For example, the annual function at your school is unlikely to make the news, but if a famous actor is invited as the chief guest, then the media might be interested in covering it. By focusing on particular issues, the media influences our thoughts, feelings, and actions and brings those issues to our attention due to the significant influence it plays in our lives and in shaping our thoughts. It is commonly said that the media sets the agenda. Very recently, the media drew our attention to alarming levels of pesticides in cola drinks. They published reports that indicated the high level of pesticides and thus made us aware of the need to regularly monitor these colas according to international quality and safety standards. They did this despite the government's resistance by boldly declaring that colas were unsafe in cup. The media positively really helped us focus on an issue that affects our lives and one that we might not even have been aware of it had it not been for media reporting. There are several instances when the media fails to focus on issues that are significant in our lives. For example, drinking water is a major problem in the country. Every year, thousands of people suffer and die because they do not get safe drinking water. However, we seldom find the media discussing this issue. A well-known Indian journalist wrote of how the fashion week in which clothes designers show their new creations to rich people formed the front page headlines of all the newspapers while several slums were being demolished in Mumbai the very same week, and this was not even noticed. As citizens of a democracy, the media has a very important role to play in our lives because it is through the media that we hear about issues related to the working of the government. The media decides what to focus on, and in this way, it sets the agenda. The government can at times prevent the media from publishing a story, and this is called censorship. Nowadays, media's close relationship with business often means that a balanced report is difficult to come by. Given this, it is important for us to be aware that the factual information that a news report provides is often not complete and can be one sided. We therefore need to analyze the news by asking the following questions: what is the information I am learning from this report? What information is not being provided? From whose point of view is the article being written? Whose point of view is being left out and why?